I will talk about 2000s core horror every day until the day I die. Let's do it. Stay Alive opens up with this dude named Loomis playing this video game called Stay Alive. He loses the game and his character dies by being hanged off of a staircase. That night, Loomis is killed in the exact same way that his character was in the game. And his roommate Rex and Rex's girlfriend Sarah are offed as well. So then we meet Hutch, who was a friend of Loomis's, and he's attending his funeral. And there he also meets Abigail, who was a friend of Sarah. Hutch and Loomis grew up together, so Hutch takes some of his things, which include the Stay Alive game. So Hutch decides to bring his friends in to play this game, and he knows that it was the last thing that Loomis played before he died. The group consists of Hutch and Abigail, October played by Sophia Bush and her brother Phineas, and Swink played by Frankie Muniz, and Hutch's boss Miller is also playing separately from his office. So the game is set on this plantation, and it opens up with this incantation that it requires the players to say out loud. And it's called the Prayer of Elizabeth. And it basically says, like, if we perish, our blood will keep Countess Elizabeth Bathory young. They start playing this game. They're walking through the cemetery. There's a mausoleum and there's a tower in the distance. And at one point, the game directs Miller to pick up a rose. October, who is like super witchy, explains, well, the undead can't move past wild roses, so that's probably why they're having you pick it up. It's to protect you. So Miller ends up getting separated from the group in the game, but he throws one of his roses, which protects him from one of the spirits that's coming to kill him. But then he is approached by this woman in red, who of course is the Countess, and she kills him because he has no roses left. And she does that by stabbing him with a pair of scissors in the neck. So Miller's like, all right, I'm dead. I'm just going to sign off for the night. But after he does that, the Countess appears in his office and offs him in the same exact way that he just died in the game. So Hutch, going to work the next day, runs into these two detectives, Thibodeau and King, and they tell him about what happened to Miller. They start questioning Hutch, who tells them that Miller and Loomis both were playing this game Stay Alive right before they died, and that they died the same exact way that their characters did in the game. October starts to do more research on Elizabeth Bathory, who, yes, was a real person, and she reads about how she would off and use the blood of young women in an attempt to maintain her youth. And she hated mirrors, which is why all the mirrors in the game are broken, because she couldn't stand to look at herself and see herself getting old. Meanwhile, Phineas decides that he is going to play the game by himself. He quits the game before his character can die. Later on, as he's driving, his car stalls on the middle of a road, and when he gets out, he is run down by a horse-drawn carriage and dies. So it doesn't matter if you quit the game or not, it's going to keep playing. So at this point, the rest of them are like, okay, we're never playing this game again. Swink tells the detectives to steer clear of it, but Detective King is a fucking idiot and plays it anyway. Detective King's character dies, and he is killed shortly after in his own car in the same exact way. So Hutch and Abigail decide to go to Loomis's house to see what they can find out about this game. And in his stuff, they find the game developer's location, which is the real-life location of the plantation where the game takes place. October is, of course, devastated over Phineas's death, but she continues to research Elizabeth Bathory. And she learns that she was locked in the tower on the estate where the plantation is as a punishment for her crimes, and she vowed to get her revenge one day. And she's doing so through the game, and when they chant the Prayer of Elizabeth at the opening, they resurrect her. And the only way to kill the Countess is to drive 3 nails into her, which will trap her soul. Eventually, the Countess finds October, and she takes a nail gun and tries to shoot them at the Countess, but realizes that she's just a ghost at this point, so nothing works. It just goes right through her. And sure enough, the Countess offs October before the others can get to her. Now the remaining 3, Hutch, Abigail, and Swink, realize that the game continues to play even when nobody's playing it. So the 3 of them set out for the plantation, and Swink stays in the van to play the game to distract the Countess so the others can go find something. But because Swink is so good at the game, the Countess doesn't fucking like that, and she starts cheating. So Swink makes a run for it, and he ends up falling into this rose bush. And the whole time he's just screaming. He's like, "You're cheating, my character didn't die yet." And the Countess arrives in real life in a horse-drawn carriage and approaches him as he's in the bush and presumably kills him. And when they return to the van, they see on the laptop that Swink's character has died, so now they know that he's dead. So they take the laptop and they pick some wild roses in a hope that that would like defeat the spirits before they can get killed. And sure enough, it works. A horse-drawn carriage runs at Hutch and he holds up a rose and the thing disappears. So Hutch and Abigail make it to the tower and they end up getting separated. Hutch finds Elizabeth Bathory's body and drives the 3 nails into her. But meanwhile, the ghost version of Elizabeth attacks Abigail. But once the 3rd and final nail is hammered in, she disappears. After the nails are driven in, her body reanimates and she wakes up. But Hutch remembers what October said about Elizabeth hating mirrors. And he holds up the laptop, which has like a reflective surface up to her, and she literally bursts into flames. Now, at this point, we learned that as a child, Hutch was caught in a fire that his father set and it killed his mother. He was rescued, but now he has like this terrible hatred and fear of fire. As the Countess bursts into flames, the whole room starts to burn down with her. Hutch huddles in the corner and there's this flashback to when he was a kid. It's actually this really like beautiful and heartbreaking scene. But before the fire can take him, Swink breaks down the fucking door. He didn't die. He lived because he was in the rose bush. And him and Abigail take Hutch and they get the fuck out of there. And the three of them survive to tell the tale and live happily ever after. Just kidding. Because we see that a game store that Detective King had gone to earlier is now selling copies of Stay Alive. Some of the workers decide to put it in and play it, and they start reciting the incantation. So we know that Elizabeth is going to continue claiming victims and the movie ends.